Why do I always get the stammer when I'm just about to say this? I swear to God I can speak. What's the crack, guys? Welcome back to my channel, Kazzy here. In this video I'm going to be talking about my May wrap up. First of all, I would just like to apologise for the lack of videos in May. I don't know really what happened, but I had such a lack of energy in May. It was actually unreal. Half of the time I just filmed videos and then just didn't bother editing them. I have 2 videos already filmed, but I filmed them like 2 weeks ago and I haven't bothered editing them. Like, I know that is just pure laziness and bad Kazzy. I have no excuses whatsoever, and I think because of that lack of energy, as you can probably tell from the thumbnail, I read 4 books. This isn't a thumbnail where I read so many on my iPad or I listened to a whole bunch of audiobooks. I didn't listen to 1 audiobook in May. I only read 4 books, which is disappointing in that in April I read 10, but at the same time 4 is still an amazing number, because to be perfectly honest, I could have read 0, I could have read nada, zilch, zippo, but I read 4 and they're actually like, they're sizable books except for 1. So I'm going to stop rambling, so hopefully this wrap up is going to be nice, short and sweet, and it won't be like 15 minutes long. Who am I kidding? I like to talk. When I get a chance to talk, I talk. If you know who said that like that, then you are awesome. It might be a bit obscure, but the answer is Celine Dion. Have you ever watched an audience with Celine Dion? That's where it's from. So the first book that I read in May was A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I had been wanting to read this book since I discovered it, which was about this time last year. If you don't know what A Darker Shade of Magic is, you've been living under a rock, or you've never been to a booktube before. It centers around Kel, who is, oh my god, as I said, I read this at the start of the month. I can't remember what the word is for it. An Atari? Atari or Antari? I'm not sure. But he is this traveller who can travel between parallel Londons. There is a grey London, a red London, a white London, and a black London. All of these Londons are the only thing that is the same in all of these different realities, because in one reality is the United Kingdom, in another reality it's called something completely different, and it's got a completely different geography, and it's got a completely different political system, and it's just completely different except for the fact that it has a city called London. Kel is one of these magicians. As you can tell, I can't remember the exact name for what Kel is. He can travel between these Londons. It's a very rare gift. In some of these Londons there is a magic system. In one London, magic is revered, it's adored, it's used publicly. In one, it's kind of hidden, it's whispered behind closed doors, and another one, it doesn't exist. And then there's Black London, which nobody knows what happened to it. I've been wanting to read more V.E. Schwab after reading Vicious last year. I absolutely adored it, and so I wanted to read more by this author, and I'm so glad I picked up A Darker Shade of Magic. I'm kicking myself for taking so long to do it, because I absolutely loved these characters. I loved everything about this book. Kel, I love him. Lila, oh my gosh, I want to be her when I grow up. I literally want to be Lila Bard when I grow up. And Holland, oh, be still my heart. Holland, he is something else. He is something else. Absolutely love that character. Pause for ambulance. Hope you're okay. As I was reading this, I was completely invested in the world, completely invested in these characters. I was rooting for them, and that ending, I need to know what happens next, but at the same time, I'm kind of trying to, you know, limit my book buying again. Like, that's not gonna happen. But I want to find out what happens next, but I'm gonna probably have to wait a little while before getting the next 2 books in the series, and I think that there is another set of books coming out about this. Still set in this world. I'm not 100% certain. I could be making it at the top of my head, but cannot wait to read more. The next 2 books that I picked up are the first 2 books in the Inkworld series by Cornelia Funke, and that is Inkheart and Inkspell. I sincerely hope I am pronouncing Cornelia's surname Funke. But if you don't know what Inkheart is, it is a book, obviously, and it follows the character of Meggie and her father Mortimer, who have this gift in that whenever they read a book, something comes out of it. but then at the same time something has to go inside the book. And when Maggie was 3, Mortimer was reading Inkheart to his wife, and 3 characters came out of it and 3 had to go in, which was the wife and the 2 cats. But years pass, and then Dustfinger, a character from Inkheart that came out, shows up on Mortimer's door and is like saying, Capricorn knows where you live, you have to leave. And then so everything happens from there, and oh my gosh, I absolutely adored this book. I had watched the movie like several years ago, but I completely forgot what happened, and I didn't really know what was going on when I was watching the movie. I think I watched like the second, third of it, and then I turned away for some reason. But I decided to pick this book up because Paul Bettany is in the movie adaptation of it as Dustfinger, and so whenever I went to see Infinity War, I just fell back in love with Paul Bettany, because how can you resist him? And I wanted to revisit Dustfinger and find out so much more about him, because he was one of my favourite characters from watching that part of the movie that I did watch. But I love the book even better. I love the book even better. Yeah, why do you use English? What's your degree in again? I love the book so much more. It goes into so much more detail. It is so much better than the movie. It annoys me that movie adaptations of books go to such extreme lengths of finding the perfect location and the perfect cast, and then they just destroy the book. That's what I think Inkheart the movie did to Inkheart the book. But I absolutely loved this book. I loved all of the characters, Dustfinger especially. At times I just wanted to slap him like on, like, you know, pull up your big boy pants and, you know, be brave. And then he was, and then he wasn't, and then he was again. And but like, I just loved that their whole ride of, do I like these characters? Do I not like these characters? It's just amazing. And the thing about these books is, like, they're both like quite sizable books, okay? So, like, these took what like about a week each to get through, but I absolutely loved them. And the thing about these books is they have the most beautiful sentences and the most beautiful thoughts about what it is to be a reader, and what it is to love books, and what it is to identify with books, and why people love books. And when I was reading these, I was like, yep, I feel that, I get that, I understand that, and I love that. And that's why I just love these books so much. At the end of Inkspell, Cornelia Funke, you have a lot to answer for, my dear. But then I do have Ink Death to read, and I guess, you know, the title kind of gives away why I want to read it. This was 5 out of 5, and I think this was 4 out of 5, because I think at times parts of it did drag, and I think that some parts of it felt a little bit, you know, did this really need to be there? But then when I look back on it, I'm just like, yeah, it kind of did need to be there, because I just loved it so much. And the last book that I read in May was Lips Touch by Laini Taylor, which is a collection of short stories about goblins. I went into buying this book and into reading this book not knowing an awful lot about it, because I've never heard anybody talk about it or even mention it on BookTube or Bookstagram or just anywhere in general. And so when I saw this on the Waterstones website, when I was just perusing it when I was in Manchester, I was like, oh, okay. And then I saw it in the Manchester Waterstones, and I was just, why not? Because I just wanted something of Laini Taylor's to read. And I do have the whole Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy that I haven't read yet. I'm gonna get to that. Lips Touch is a collection of short stories. The first one is in Victorian times, goblins offered sumptuous fruits in exchange for maiden souls, and were usually successful. But what does it take to tempt today's savvy young women discover the answer in goblin fruit? And there's another story called Spicy Little Curses Such as These, and it was my favorite of the 3. And it's where a demon and the ambassador to hell tussle over the soul of a beautiful English girl in India. These 2 characters battle over who is going to die, and they kind of like barter with souls. And it's kind of like, okay, I'll give you 3 people that you can save out of this earthquake, or I will give you 10 people that you can see from this, like, building fire, that kind of thing. And they barter like that in exchange for getting the souls that the ambassador wants to see of the demons. Like, well, you've got to do this little thing for me, and that's to curse this girl, and that anybody who hears her talk or sing or make any noise will die. the girl falls in love. As much as she doesn't make a sound, they start to believe that, is this curse really real? Is this curse really gonna do what it says it does? And so she wants to like test this theory. It was my favorite story out of the three. Hatchling was very confusing. It was still very good, and I still adored Laini Taylor's writing. That is one thing that Laini Taylor is spectacular at, is writing. Everything was just so lyrical. Also, it comes with these illustrations that kind of depict the story, and they are spectacular. Like, that's the one for Hatchling. There's this one as well for Hatchling. Like, just look at that detail. Whenever I was reading the story, I was like, oh damn, that's what that is. These illustrations are by Jim De Portolo, and they are freaking spectacular. Like, this is the one from Spicy Little Curses, such as these. Spectacular. And this book made me fall back in love with Laini Taylor's writing, and it makes me so much more excited for Muse of Nightmares, which will be coming out, which I have pre-ordered because I need the edition with the orange sprayed edges. And Waterstones is gonna have that to match the one with the blue sprayed edges for Strange Dreamer. If you want to know what my ratings were, because, you know, I want to know what my ratings were because I can't freaking remember, you can follow me on Goodreads, and I will have that linked down in the description bar. So yeah, those are the 4 books that I read in May. Let me know what your thoughts are on any of these books. Have you read them? Let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. I don't know why I did that for subscribe. Yes, I'm gonna just stop rambling and just say cheerio. Bye! It wasn't cheerio, but still like bye-bye. That's still what I meant to say.